segment number 18. Segment 18, search, seizure, offences and penalties. And in this, what we are going to cover is first offences which leads to seizure, and thereafter, so there is one question, how to apportion that 1% under 86B if all the tax heads are given, that is CGST, SGST, IGST. Very simple, that head into 1%. That head into 1%, simple. So why you get confused? That respective head into 1%. Sir, total into 1%, no, don't follow that. That respective head into 1%. Accordingly utilize the ITC, okay. Then, so first in offence and penalties chapter, we are going to discuss offences that leads to search and seizure. Thereafter, we are going to learn offences that leads to penalties, and next we are going to learn offences that leads to arrest, offences that leads to imprisonment, and offences which are cognizable and non-bailable, and finally offences which leads to compounding. So means compounding means you don't have to undergo any imprisonment, you can pay some fine, thereby you will get immunity from prosecution. These are the 6 headings we are going to learn now. First, offences that leads to search and seizure, okay. So say this, situation 1. So offences that leads to search and seizure, there are 2 situations. Situation 1, section 67 read with section 130. This is seizure in the premises, that is search and seizure in the premises, whereas situation 2, that situation 2 is search during the transit, okay, search during the transit, that is situation number 2. This is section 68 read with section 129. These are the 4 sections you need to remember, 67, 68, 129, 130. In that, first and last is one combo, 67, 68, 129, 130, okay. First and last is combo 1. What is that? Section 67 read with section 130. Then middle 2 is a combo, 68 read with section 129, okay. So first one is search during the search in premises, second is search during transit. Now look into this, search during in the premises. So what will happen? Inspection will be carried out at the premise of the taxable person. Who is a taxable person? So one who is registered or liable to be registered is known as taxable person, okay. So not only registered, even liable to get registered. Then transporter, warehouse operator or any other premises. Question number 1, can the residential premises also be searched upon? Yes. If proper officer has reason to believe that there are some goods or documents containing the details of the goods which are evaded under tax, for which they can do the search in residential premise also, because they use the word any other premises. And transporter and warehouse keeper, what if they are not registered? That question will not arise. Definitely they need to at least enroll and get a unique enrollment number. Every transporter and warehouse keeper, even though not registered, should obtain a UEN under GST law. So therefore their details will be available. And for doing this inspection, even though the words used here is inspection, but it is actually search only, and authorization from Joint Commissioner or above is required for the purpose of this inspection. And very, very important, there should be some reasons to believe evasion, otherwise this search will not be applicable, okay. And for getting the reasons, like I have a reason to believe there is a evasion. How do I know that there is a reason to believe evasion? For that purpose, there is one softer provision before this, that is called as access to business premises. Access to business premise under section 61 is actually a prefix to search under section 67. What will happen? I am an officer, I will go to the premises and I will ask for documents. I cannot do any search. I cannot go to the MD room, open the drawer or open the almirah, etc. and all. No. I can sit in the conference room, ask them to give the documents, and they can give the documents. I can do the checking, and thereafter I will get the reason to believe evasion. Then I will go to my officer, my superior, that is Joint Commissioner and above, and I will tell to him, boss, I have a doubt on him, so we should go and search and break whatever available. So okay, fine. So he will give me the search warrant, and thereafter I will go and search his premises. That's how it works. So therefore, access to business premises and inspection is more or less, it is connected, but there is a huge difference between these two. And now we are discussing only section 67. So inspection is carried out at the premises. If any unaccounted goods are found, then such goods are liable for confiscation. So unaccounted goods means those goods which are not reported in section 35 accounts and records. There are many accounts and records which are required to be maintained by a registered person. Suppose if the details are not there, or if he is liable to get registered but not got registered and he suppressed the information, so all those are coming under unaccounted goods. And what they will do, seizure under section 67, seizure of goods. So when they do seizure, what will happen? Search, they identify something, they search to identify something. Seizure, transfer of possession. Confiscation, transfer of ownership to the department. And seizure, from place of business. Seizure order, order for seizure of goods, documents shall be passed. Then two options are available. Option number one, that is immediately after seizure order, the person from whom the goods are seized or documents are seized has two options. Option number one, he need to pay the tip, that is tax, interest, penalty. He need to pay that so that the goods will be released and all the provisions are deemed to be concluded. Pay applicable tax, penalty under 122 subsection 1. So what is the penalty under 122 subsection 1? 100% of tax or 10,000, whichever is higher. And remember, four things should always be done separately: CGST, SGST. So we need to compute penalty separately under CGST, SGST. Late fee we need to compute separately under CGST, SGST. Then pre-deposit should also be computed separately under CGST, SGST. And thereafter any other fee. So that fees, if it is given as CGST, SGST, okay. So but three mandatorily separate. What is that? Penalty. Sir, interest? No, interest you do it together. Interest you do normal 18%. Don't compute separately 18% of tax under CGST, 18% of tax under SGST, then the interest will go to 36%. Okay, so that is not there. So 18% when you take on together only you take. But these three things and all when you are learning, it will be separately under CGST. What are they? Penalty, then late fee for delay in filing returns, and then pre-deposit. Okay, so here penalty, that is under CGST, is 100% of CGST or 10,000, whichever is higher. Suppose if the question is about IGST, multiply with 2. Suppose if the question is not about IGST, you do it only that separate, CGST alone you do. Got it? And what will happen once you pay this penalty? The goods shall be released and all the proceedings in this respect shall be deemed to be concluded. And option 2, but I don't have money to pay. I don't have money to pay, moreover I am not selling the goods. These are unaccounted goods, I agree, but I am not selling. I don't have money to pay, why should I pay? Then in that case I will execute a bond. When I execute a bond, they will do provisional release, not final release, which means the proceedings are not concluded. And whenever I sell these goods, at that time I need to pay the tax and applicable penalty. Right now the goods are released, because I will tell, sir, if you give goods only I will sell and then only I will earn money, then only I will be able to pay you tax and penalty. For that reason I will execute a bond and the goods will be released provisionally. And bond covering the value of the goods we need to execute. These are the two options. If any of these two options not exercised by the person from whom goods were seized, then in that case a confiscation order will be passed by the department. The moment confiscation order is passed, the ownership also will go to the department. So far the possession is with department, the ownership also will go to the department. That is about confiscation, transfer of ownership to department. Now they will pass a confiscation order, and yet there is one more option given, that is called as redemption option. Redemption option is to pay the redemption fine so that the goods will be released. And what is the time limit within which the redemption fine needs to be paid? 3 months. 3 months from the date on which they pass the confiscation order. Option to redeem goods by paying a fine within 3 months. Okay, within 3 months we need to pay that fine. 3 months from which date? 3 months from the date of confiscation order. And is this redemption fine in addition to whatever the penalty that we need to pay, of course. So TIPF, so TIPF, that is tax we need to pay, interest we need to pay, penalty we need to pay, and redemption fine is also required to be paid. What is this redemption fine? the maximum redemption fine is market value of the goods minus tax chargeable, and this you don't compute separately for CGST, separately for SGST. This you do it together only. That is, you see the total market value of the goods minus the total tax payable thereon, because this redemption fine will be charged by either CGST officer or SGST officer, and therefore only one fine, one officer only will do, and they will collect the total. Thereafter will share between central government and state government. So due to that reason, the redemption fine you do it single computation. Okay, so just remember, penalty, late fee, pre-deposit, that alone separate computation. In all other places you just take it as total. Okay, and market value of the goods minus tax chargeable thereon. This is the maximum redemption fine. Means does not mean this much they will be levying. They can levy any amount less than this, but in exam when they are asking what is a maximum redemption fine, you need to write this much they can levy. And redemption fine, see, tax chargeable means whatever is the applicable tax on that particular goods, that should be taken, and that need not be on the market value, because market value different and transaction value will be different. So therefore we need to compute tax not on the market value but on the transaction value. Then redemption fine in case of conveyance. In case of conveyance, we need to check whether the owner is coming forward or not coming forward, etc. But usually in case this conveyance is coming here under section 130, for 129 only we need to check owner coming forward, not coming forward. For 130, this conveyance is seized in the premises, which means the conveyance is there in the premises, we loaded the goods in the conveyance and the conveyance is there. At that stage the conveyance is seized. So then for release of goods only there is a redemption fine, but for release of conveyance the redemption fine is separate. That is, on that in that conveyance, what is the value of the goods into what is the tax rate on with respect to those goods, that much we need to pay as the redemption fine, so that the conveyance also will be released. Redemption fine in case of conveyance to the owner of the conveyance, tax payable on goods transported thereon. And once we pay this redemption fine, this is again the maximum redemption fine, that much we need to pay, and they can levy anything less than this. Tax and penalty along with redemption fine. If option not opted, what will happen? So within 3 months from confiscation order, we are not paying this, then the goods will be disposed of by way of auction. When they dispose of by way of auction, will they return anything to the owner of the goods? Nothing, because the ownership already transferred to department. Now department itself is the owner of the goods, so entire amount retained by the department. This is about section 67 read with section 130. 67 talks about seizure in the premises, 130 is about confiscation order. Then inspection can be carried out only after joint commissioner or above officer gives the authorization. Before issuing authorization, officer should have reason to believe. So reason to believe is important. Reason to believe that the taxable person suppressed a transaction or suppressed the stock, means a transaction they have made but they have not reported in accounts, or the stock is there in the place but they have not reported that stock in the records, or claimed IT is in excess, or any other contravention. After seizure order, that is, here after they are doing seizure order, they are giving an option to pay the appropriate amount and get it released. For that they need to give a notice, and that notice to be given within 6 months plus 6 months after seizure order, not for seizure order. After seizure order, to pay the tip, they need to give a notice, and that notice to be given within 6 months, plus it can be extended for a further period of 6 months. If no notice is given, the goods shall be released, and that is whatever release, and this release is provisional release or final release. Final release, it's not like bond provisional release, not like that. The goods will be released because it is their mistake by not giving the notice within the time limit. Okay, then next, inspection under section 67 versus access to business premises. What is the difference? In case of access to business premises, the reason to believe evasion is not required, whereas in case of inspection, the reason to believe evasion should be present. And what about warrant? Search warrant. In case of access to business premises, search warrant is not required, but an officer authorized by an officer not below joint commissioner should only go for search. Okay, not below joint commissioner. Officer authorized by an officer. Can a superintendent go for access to business premises? Yes, but they should be authorized by an officer. Who? ACDC? No, not ACDC. joint commissioner or additional commissioner, commissioner, that stage. Okay, so ACDC cannot authorize a superintendent to go and do access to business premises. Got it? And the hierarchy you remember. So first we have commissioner, chief commissioner, and below chief commissioner we have commissioner. Below commissioner we have additional joint commissioner. Below additional joint commissioner we have assistant or deputy commissioner, and thereafter below we have superintendent. So that is this, not required but such officer authorized by an officer not below joint commissioner. And warrant, warrant is definitely required to be issued by the officer here in this case, and both case if you see officer not below joint commissioner. And next, which person they can do inspection, here taxable person, but here only registered person. Taxable person or operator of a warehouse or transporter, but here only registered person. And what premises they can do inspection, business premises, residential premises, warehouse, transporter premises, or any other premises, whereas here only place of business, no other premises can be done for access to business premises. Usually access to business premises is carried out to gather evidence for inspection under section 67. That's how these two sections are connected. Again 67 is connected with 130 because of the confiscation after seizure. And next we have, suppose if they are going for inspection at that stage, that is search, they are going. So maybe the person is so powerful that he has lot of bodyguards or bouncers etc., and they may obstruct an officer. For that, can the officer take the support of police officers? Yes, police department, customs department, everyone. So they can take the permission or they can take the assistance of the following officers, and police, railways, they can take the help of police, they can take help of railways, they can take help of customs officers also. Suppose if the premises fall somewhere in the customs area, okay, so in that case customs officers, village officers, because if there are some rural areas and all, village officers will know nook and corner in that rural area, so they take the permission of village officers, because it will be completely like a dense forest. Somewhere inside the forest one warehouse will be there, in that warehouse stock will be kept. Okay, so but village officers will have an idea about it. Okay, Pushpa movie and all you did not see. Then officers in charge of collection of land revenue means, so these collectors, so land collectors, land revenue collectors or mandal revenue officers etc. will be there na. So those people, their support also can be taken. Then after seizure order, what is the limit for confiscation order? They have not given. So that is a mistake in the drafting, they have not given in the law. That is, once the seizure order passed, what is the time limit within which confiscation order to be passed? They have not given, but notice only they gave. So notice to be given within 6 months plus 6 months. And suppose if this person has to pay two things, either option 1 or option 2, if not confiscation order is passed, what is that duration? That duration is not defined in the law, which means it may take 1 year, 2 years also, or depending upon the nature of the goods. If the goods are not having that much of shelf life, immediately also they can complete. It's all about facts to facts basis. In law there is no information about that. Then following records are to be made available within 15 days from the date when such demand is made. That is, during this access to business premises, they will ask for the documents. So those documents needs to be produced. What are those records that they can be asked? This provision is actually common not only for access to business premises but also for special audit. So in case of special audit, CA or CMA will be appointed. That CA or CMA will go and ask for the document. For that also, what are the documents that they can ask for? Say this, following records to be made available within 15 days from the day when such demand is made, and is also applicable in case of special audit under section 66. What is the time limit within which we need to give? 15 days. For example, today one officer is coming for access to business premises and say that I want to check your records. Right now rocket revision batch is going, you go and come later. I can tell 15 days is the time that I have. You understood or not? So 15 days time I have. So not that immediately I need to give all the documents. 15 days, not working days. 15 days, keep that in mind. 15 days. What records I need to make them available? All the records which are to be maintained under section 35. What are the records which we are required to be maintained under section 35? So we have I formats. It went off. No, projector also could not tolerate the torture here. Can you manage with the book for some time till the time they change this? Okay. So please check the book. What are the various accounts and records which are required to be maintained? You can just turn the page little bit before and you can see page number 158. Page number 158. No, it got blasted. Say this, I formats. What are the records to be maintained? Section 35. I formats, I for inward supplies. Inward supplies means all the purchase related details we need to maintain. F for foreign trade. Foreign trade means that is import and export. O for outward supplies. So I for inward supplies, remember the mnemonic, I formats, I for inward supplies, but don't write just inward supplies. You need to write a registered person shall be required to maintain the following accounts and records, that is accounts and records pertaining to inward supplies. When you are making inward supplies, from whom you are making? From the suppliers, along with the details of the suppliers and with supporting documentation. What is the supporting documentation? Tax invoice, debit notes, credit notes and delivery challan, e-way bill, etc. Got it? Then auditing, you know, this much you will learn, you will write this much like that. Okay, this you remember, but you write extra information and all. Then F, foreign trade, import and export. So in case of import and export, so all the other records, what are the other records we need to maintain? Import along with the details of bill of entry, bill of lading, airway bill, etc. And in case of export, along with details of shipping bill, whatever documents you remember, everything you write. Okay. Thereafter, O for outward supplies. Outward supplies, so to customers, along with the details of the customers with supporting documentation. R for RCM. Out of the inward supplies, what are all the inward supplies on which GST payable by the recipient under reverse charge mechanism, along with the supporting documents needs to be maintained. M for manufacture related. Manufacture related means like process accounts. Whatever the manufacture related records, production records, opening stock, closing stock, all those details we need to maintain. That is manufacture related. A for advances received, paid and adjusted. Advances will be received from whom? Advance will be received from customers. Advances will be paid to suppliers. And adjustment, like say for example, already we paid some advances or we received some advances, while raising the bill we need to adjust it and on net amount only we need to pay. So that advances received, paid and adjusted. Then tax details. Tax details means input tax and output tax. Then stock details. So stock details along with the place where we are keeping the closing stock. This is about the I formats. These are the list of accounts and records which we need to maintain. Okay, and these accounts and records will be produced before the person like officer who is coming for access to business premises. Also to the auditor who is coming under section 66, CA/CMA who is doing special audit. So records under section 35. Maybe this can be asked as a theory question. Next, number 2, trial balance or equivalent. Then audited financials, cost audit report and income tax audit report. Then next one you see. So we completed situation 1. Now we are moving on to situation 2. Situation 2, that is seizure of goods during transit. Okay. So this seizure during transit we have section 68 read with section 129. So here what happens? A conveyance will be going on the way and the proper officer will intercept the conveyance. When the proper officer intercepts the conveyance and does the physical verification, he will come to know that there are no proper documentation available with respect to those goods. Maybe e-way bill is not there, tax invoice is missing or wrong information is there in e-way bill, etc. So then the proper officer will pass a seizure order for seizing both goods as well as conveyance. So conveyance carrying the goods are intercepted by the proper officer for inspection in the transit. If the transporter was found transporting or storing such goods which are removed in contravention of the provisions of the act, such goods and conveyance are liable for confiscation, both goods and conveyance. So seizure of goods, so transfer of possession to department. So this is seizure during transit. They will pass a seizure order. Order for seizure of goods and conveyance shall be passed. Now what happens after seizure order? So once they pass the seizure order, within 7 days from seizure order, they will be giving a notice for payment of penalty, and after 7 days they will pass a penalty order. So seizure order, 7 days notice for levying penalty, and after notice within 7 days they will pass the penalty order, and that penalty order once they pass, within 15 days we need to pay the penalty, otherwise what they will do, they will dispose of the goods. But the difference between section 67, that situation 1, situation 2 is that in situation 2 we need to pay tax, interest, penalty, but here we need to pay only penalty. So about tax payment that section is not talking. Okay, first notice within 7 days of verification of conveyance, penalty order within 7 days of service of notice after giving an opportunity of being heard, upon payment of penalty within 15 days of receipt of order, all proceedings in this respect shall be deemed to be concluded. Write down one more point, alternatively bond can be executed. Yes, there is a possibility of bond that can be executed in this case, not necessary that we need to pay the penalty, but bond also can be executed. So write down alternatively. So for the third point you write down, upon payment of penalty within 15 days, so the proceedings shall be deemed to be concluded, alternatively bond can be executed. So this bond point is common, even there also we have bond point, here also we have the bond point, and the set period of 15 days can be reduced in case of perishable goods. Once a penalty order is passed, maybe 2 days time only may be given if the goods are perishable in nature. Okay, then next, penalty payable for release of goods. Sir, is there any time limit for seizure order under 129? No, there is no time limit for seizure order under 129. Immediately, as and when they intercept, they will do the seizure order. Okay, so there is nothing like that called time limit that is given here. That time limit is regular time limit under e-way bill. So e-way bill, they will intercept the vehicle and they will do the physical verification. That time limit only. But for seizure order, immediately they will do the seizure. Got it? And what is the penalty payable? So here we have two headings, owner coming forward to claim release, owner not coming forward to claim release. When owner is not coming forward to claim release, then who is coming forward to claim release? Transporter will be coming forward. How much is the penalty? If the owner is coming forward, then for taxable goods, 200% of tax will be penalty. So 200% of what tax? CGST tax. So for example, 15 lakhs is the total value. Okay, so 15 lakhs is the total value. So please try to understand here. If the value of the goods, is 15 lakhs, if the value of goods is 15 lakhs, if the value of goods is 15 lakhs and IGST is at the rate of 18%, then what we need to do, if owner come forward, okay, if owner is coming forward, if owner comes forward, how much will be taken as the penalty? So the penalty will be 200% of tax. Okay, so how you need to compute? First you need to take 15 lakhs. After taking 15 lakhs, you take 9%. You take 9%. First you do this way. So you take 9% into 200%. Okay, so this is penalty under CGST Act. So now in question they will clearly give, or in MCQ they will clearly give, compute penalty under CGST Act. So when they say penalty under CGST Act, you do like this only. So 15 lakhs into 9% into 200%. So 15 lakhs into 9%, 1,35,000 into 200%, that is 2,70,000. Suppose if they are asking penalty, they suppose this is like alternative 1, they may give penalty under CGST Act like that. Alternative 2, they may ask a question, compute penalty, like that they will give, that nothing, they will not give anything, compute penalty. So they will not specify the act. When they are not specifying the act, we need to take 15 lakhs into 9% into 200% into 2. Why into 2 times? Because both CGST as well as SGST. So 2,70,000 into 2, 5,40,000. Or alternative 3, they may also ask penalty under IGST Act. Penalty under IGST Act, like that they will ask. Suppose if they are asking penalty under IGST Act, same story, that is 15 lakhs into 9% into 200% into 2, that will be 5,40,000. So this is how, either they can ask this way, any of these three ways they will ask. Accordingly you need to modify the answer. In descriptive question will not be a problem because you can write multiple alternatives also, but in MCQ what will you do? You cannot answer multiple options, all the options if you shared it will be considered invalid, okay. So therefore one answer only you need to select. For that reason only I told you this. So suppose if owner is not coming forward, if owner does not come forward, then what will happen in this case? If owner does not come forward, if owner does not come forward, how much will be taken as a penalty if owner does not come forward? So suppose if it is penalty under CGST Act, penalty under CGST Act, say this is alternative 1. Suppose if they are asking penalty under CGST Act, what we need to do? A or B, whichever is higher. A that will be 200% of tax. So same story, 15 lakhs into 9% into 200%, that will be 2,70,000, or B will be, so 15 lakhs into 50%, that will be 7,50,000. So whichever is higher, that is 7,50,000. Suppose if they are giving like alternative 2, just compute the penalty like that they have asked, they did not specify anything. Then what you do? The same computation you do, and that 7,50,000 you get, multiply with 2, that is 15 lakhs will be taken as a penalty. Means close to value of goods we are required to pay penalty. Yes. And alternative 3, suppose if they are asking compute penalty under IGST Act, same story, penalty under IGST Act, then also we need to do the same way, that is 7,50,000 we need to take and multiply with 2, that is 15 lakhs will be taken as the penalty, okay. So like this we need to do depending upon the question. Owner come forward, owner does not come forward. When owner is not coming forward, if you observe, everywhere the penalty will be high only, correct? 7,50,000, 15 lakhs and 15 lakhs. Why when owner is not coming forward the penalty is higher? Because to make the owner come forward. If the owner is coming forward, see, when more penalty is there, owner will not come forward, then higher penalty. So owner will naturally come forward to pay a lower penalty. Then we know who is the owner, what is the premises. So therefore we can go for situation 1, search in the premises. For that reason only they want owner to come forward. So that's why they have created a penalty like this. And this particular penalty can be more than, that is, can this 200% be more than, so 50% of value? Yes, possible. In a case where the GST plus compensation cess both are there, GST is also there, compensation cess is also there, then definitely the 200% will be more. For example, if the GST is 28% and compensation cess is somewhere like 72%, so 72% and all is there, yes, tobacco products. So in tobacco products 160% up to that also we have. So therefore compensation cess is 160, 210% compensation cess is also there, okay. So therefore 100 and like then into 50% equal. Suppose if you take 160% compensation cess, so 28% GST plus 160, that is 188, 50%, so is what, 94, that is only more. Got it? So therefore 94 into 200%, so definitely that will only be more. So therefore 50% of value or tax can be higher. So therefore don't conclude that 50% of the value is only higher. So therefore always we can take 50% of the value like that, don't write the provision fully, 200% of tax or 50% of value, whichever is higher. That is about this. Then so taxable goods, exempted goods will be 2% of value of goods or 25,000, whichever is lower. Usually penalty everywhere it will be whichever is higher. This is the place where we have whichever is lower, because it is exempted goods. The maximum penalty will be 25,000 rupees. Why for exempted goods there is a penalty? Because exempted goods also should be transported with valid documents, that is bill of supply. If there is no documents, then these are unaccounted transaction. For that reason, so penalty can be levied, but the maximum penalty will be 25,000. What if the owner is not coming forward? Instead of 2%, it will be 5% of value or 25,000, whichever is lower. And for release of conveyance, so this is penalty only for release of goods. but for release of conveyance, whatever is the penalty that is payable for release of goods, or 1 lakh, whichever is lower. So it is not whichever is higher, whichever is lower. These two places they use the word whichever is lower, whichever is lower. And so maximum penalty for release of conveyance will be 1 lakh. Okay. And next. So this is about owner coming forward, owner does not come forward. Then recovery of penalty by sale of goods or conveyance. What happens within, what is the time limit that they have given after this penalty order? So 15 days. Within 15 days we need to pay, and it can be reduced for less than 15 days. Otherwise they will dispose of the goods, they will dispose of the conveyance. What they are going to do with the proceeds? Can they retain indefinitely? So like confiscation, no. In confiscation, when they dispose of, the entire money is owned by the government, retained by the government, because ownership is already passed, because they passed a confiscation order. But here they are not passing a confiscation order. So due to that reason, the entire money cannot be retained by department. They have to refund the balance. What is the money that they will refund? First, disposal of proceeds of sale of goods or conveyance and mobile or immobile property. First, it will be apportioned against the administrative cost of the recovery process. Like they need to conduct auction. For conducting auction, some expenses will take place. First they will adjust towards that expenses. Thereafter, whatever penalty that is payable under section 129, it will be taken for that, and balance amount shall be credited to the electronic cash ledger of the owner of the goods or conveyance if they are registered, else it will be credited to their bank account. And suppose, why will they be unregistered? Because even they can be taxable person also. And thereafter, what if the balance, like their bank details is not identifiable, no one is turning up? As soon as the lorry came and the proper officer stopped the lorry, the driver jumped from the lorry and he ran away. So then in that case, the proper officer will not know anyone. So therefore they will sell the goods by way of auction, conveyance by way of auction, and they will wait for 6 months. So if the balance of the sale proceeds cannot be so paid within 6 months, within 6 months from the date of sale, it will be deposited in the consumer welfare fund. Okay. Next, so we completed the first part, that is what are the offences that leads to search and seizure. Now we are looking into offences that leads to penalty. In that, section 122 subsection 1. 122 subsection 1 talks about like some list of offences. For that list of offences, bio discredits TFT, the penalty will be 100% of tax or ITC or refund or TDS, TCS, whatever is the amount that is involved in the offence, or 10,000, whichever is higher. So what are those offences? Bio discredits TFT. Okay. So these alternative methods, same for calculation of redemption value in section 130. What we have discussed is section 130 only. Concentrate to the class. Okay. If you don't understand, leave it. Okay. So why there is no confiscation in this section? So because they have not given, I have not drafted it, sorry. Seriously, I have not drafted the section 129. I have not drafted. How will I know whether there is confiscation or not? This is the law, this is the rule, this is the way in which we need to follow. So don't ask me this type of questions and all. So Nirmala madam is not my mother-in-law and all. Got it? So how will I know? So they have not given. They are telling like after penalty order you have to pay within the 15 days, and thereafter this will be sold by way of auction. That's it. Got it? That's it. This book is that's it. Okay. And you don't ask me questions in this. This is the law, this is the what you need to follow, that's it. Okay. Then offences under section 122 subsection 1. What are those list of offences you need to remember? Bio discredits TFT. B for books of accounts default. Books of accounts default means not maintaining books of accounts or maintaining false books of accounts or fake books of accounts. That is books of accounts default. Then I for invoice default. Invoice default means I am supplying without invoice, or I am giving invoice without supply, or I am making supply with giving incorrect details of invoice. That is invoice default. Then O for obstructing an officer from doing duty. So like an officer is coming for physical verification and you are stopping them from doing duty. D, dealing in goods liable for confiscation. So therefore, like whenever we are transporting these unaccounted goods or storing these unaccounted goods, selling these unaccounted goods, that's where if you see section 67, the penalty will be under 122 subsection 1. that is dealing in goods liable for confiscation. But for 129 don't apply this 122 subsection 1 penalty, because for 129 that is situation 2 already they have given a separate penalty. That's the reason why this 122 subsection 1 penalty will not be applicable there. Then dealing in goods liable for confiscation, I for ISD default, input service distributor default. Then S for supply with GSTIN of another person. So that is I am supplying goods or services, but instead of giving my invoice, some other person's invoice I have given, their GSTIN I have given. So which means that I am trying to defraud the government. For that purpose it is an offence. Supply with GSTIN of another person. ISD default means what? ISD default means I am not supposed to distribute the credit, but I have distributed the credit, or I distributed the credit in excess, that is ISD default. Then C for collected tax not deposited within 3 months, or collected an amount as tax not deposited within 3 months. What is the difference between these two? Collected tax not deposited means I am supposed to collect tax, I collected the tax, but I have not deposited or not paid. Whereas a representing as tax, I collected an amount. For example, I am making exempted supplies, but I collected GST from the customer, or I need to collect 5%, but I collected 12% or 18%. So this is called as amount collected as tax, representing as tax, and not deposited within 3 months. R for registration related default. Registration related default means not getting registration or giving false information for registration. E for erroneous refund. Erroneous refund means I am not supposed to get refund, but I got the refund. D, disposal of goods while detention or seizure is operational. That is already they have seized the goods, and when the proceedings are going on, what I did, I barged in and I took my goods and I came out. That is called as disposal of goods while detention or seizure is operational. Then when the moment seizure happens, possession is with them, but I tried to take those goods and I have disposed it of, that is that. ITC default means input tax credit I have taken in excess, or wrong credits or fake credits. Then tampering with material evidence. Material evidence is like documents, etc. and all. So officer is coming for search and they have identified some diary, and that diary contains a paper. In that paper some details and all written. So you are asking, sir, show me that paper, and you torn it. You understood? So like that you try to tamper the material evidence. Got it? So that is this tampering with material evidence. Suppression of turnover. You try to suppress the turnover even though it crossed 40 lakhs, but you are telling that I am not earning that much, I am earning 10 lakhs, 5 lakhs only, so therefore I am not required to register. Like that you have suppressed your turnover. TDS TCS default. So you are supposed to deduct the TDS, not deducted, but deducted, not remitted, or remitted short. That is TDS TCS default. Failure to furnish information or document. The department is asking you to submit the information or documents, but you have not submitted the documents. Then transportation related default. So you have transported without the valid documents, etc. That is transport related default. And these are the offences which are given in section 122 subsection 1. And for these offences the penalty will be 100% of tax, or ITC, or TDS TCS, or refund, whatever it may be, amount involved in the offence, or 10,000, whichever is higher. All these penalties are under CGST Act, which means an equal amount will be payable under SGST Act also. Then what is the difference between section 122 subsection 1 penalty for transportation versus 129 penalty, because both are for transportation only? Simple. First, the lorry went and transported without e-way bill. This fact we came to know only during audit. This fact that they have transported without e-way bill or without documents, we came to know while doing the audit of consignor or consignee. Generally GST department will do the audit under section 65. When they do the audit, they will identify all these details. At that time they will invoke penalty under 122 subsection 1. During the transit itself, if they identify, then the penalty will be under section 129. Okay, whatever we discussed, that 200% of tax, etc. is only during transit. Once it reaches, and thereafter we came to know that the goods are transported without documents, 122 subsection 1. That's the connection to this transport related default given in 122(1) versus that 129. Then here dealing in goods liable for confiscation, that is given in section 67 read with 130. So there we have seen one penalty, that is a connection to this 122 subsection 1. Then in case of these offences we understood what is the penalty, and this penalty is on whom? This penalty is on taxable person. Who is a taxable person? One who is registered or liable to get registered. Then 122 subsection 1A. This 122 1A is on the mastermind, who is a person making invoice default, ISD default, ITC default. So at his instance only the offence is committed and is a beneficiary of these offences. Then there will be penalty, which is tax evaded or ITC availed or passed on. So person at whose instance offence is committed and who is beneficiary of invoice default, ITC default or ISD default. 2 points: at whose instance the offence is committed and who is a beneficiary of these offences. Okay, both the conditions should be satisfied. But suppose in the exam, if they give at his instance the offence is committed, so don't check beneficiary, assume that the beneficiary will be there, he will be the beneficiary, because at his instance only the offence is committed, because already they tested this question in one attempt. In that attempt they have given at that person's instance the offence is committed like that, but they have not mentioned whether they retain the benefit or not. But usually at that person's instance only when the offence is committed, naturally they will retain the benefit out of that offences. Due to that reason, this section 122 subsection 1A can be invoked in that case. And what will be the penalty? ITC evaded or ITC, tax evaded or ITC passed on, etc. For example, I am creating fake registrations. Because of these fake registrations, ITC could be transferred to some other person. Now in that case, on the suppliers there will be invoice default 122 subsection 1, whereas on recipients who enjoyed the ITC also 122 subsection 1 ITC default will be there, but on me, so that is a person who, at whose instance this offence is committed and retains the benefit out of these offences. On me, whatever is the tax evaded or ITC passed on, that much will be the penalty on me. Got it? But this is on any person. Not necessary that they should be taxable person, they can be taxable person, registered person or unregistered person. Any person, there will be 122 subsection 1A. 122 1A should be compared with 122 subsection 3. 122 subsection 3 is on the supporting characters, that is on a main character, accused number 1. Accused number 1, there will be 122 subsection 1, that is a main character, whereas the supporting characters who assist the main characters, on them 122 subsection 3. Offences where person is not directly involved in any evasion but may be a party to evasion. For example, I am asking my driver to transport the goods without documents. So I am doing transportation related default and my driver will come under 122 subsection 3 because he assisted me. Then I am asking my accountant to make supply without invoice. So on me there will be invoice default, but on my accountant there will be 122 subsection 3. Then I am a registered person, you are unregistered person, and I am making sale to you without invoice and you did not ask for invoice. You are telling, okay sir, you don't have to give invoice, and you made the cash payment, and this transaction department came to know. On me, invoice default under 122 subsection 1, supply without invoice. On you, unregistered person, you should have demanded the invoice, you did not demand the invoice. On you, penalty will be 122 subsection 3. Okay, that is this. Up to 25,000 rupees will be the penalty. Offences where the person is not directly involved in any evasion but may be party to evasion, or if he does not attend any summons. So summons were issued and he did not appear. So summons, whenever it is issued by the officer, that person should appear before the officer, because all the officers under GST are quasi judicial bodies, and whenever they are asking, we need to go and appear before them. If you are not appearing, then there will be penalty up to 25,000 rupees. Or produce documents. Not producing documents, if he does not produce documents, already not producing documents, failure to furnish documents is there in 122 subsection 1. So failure to furnish documents, like that one point is there. What is the connection between that and this not furnishing the documents in 122 subsection 3? Simple connection. So that is on the registered person, the owner of the business, whereas this is on the accountant or any person who is involved in that office. So if they are not sharing the documents, so produce documents up to 25,000 rupees. And what is the difference between 122 1A and 122 subsection 3? Say for example, there is a chartered accountant and that chartered accountant abetted to commit the offence. So he planned and gave, this way you do so that you don't have to pay tax, like that. Now in that case, on chartered accountant, what type of penalty will come? Whether 122 1A or 122 subsection 3. If he collected only the fees, then 122 subsection 3. If he tried to retain the benefit out of the offence, so then in that case it will be 122 subsection 1A. So this can be asked because we have ethics under GST also, so they can connect it to CA. In addition to that, what other penalties CA can be having as per ICA Act, that provision also they will be asking you to write. So you connect it to that professional misconduct point is there na, you connect it to that. Then next 122(1)(b). 122(1)(b) is on e-commerce operator. So what is that e-commerce operator will be doing? Allowing unregistered supplier to make interstate supply of goods, and so there are certain compliances to be followed by e-commerce operator. So when the supplier is unregistered, so he should not allow that supplier to make interstate supplies. So can an unregistered person make supply through e-commerce operator? Yes. Every supplier of goods through e-commerce operator is compulsorily required to get registered. However, we have a relaxation. If I am making only intrastate supplies, I am not compulsorily required to get registered. I need to register only when aggregate turnover exceed threshold limit. So therefore, when I am supplier of goods making supply through e-commerce operator, being an unregistered person, I should not make interstate supplies because I should make only intrastate supplies. Number 2, I should obtain a unique enrollment number. So therefore, the e-commerce operator, you are the e-commerce operator, you need to ensure that I am not making interstate supplies. If you permit me to make interstate supply through your platform, then there will be penalty on you. And same way, if you are allowing me to make supply through your platform without obtaining unique enrollment number, then also there will be penalty on you. So allowing unregistered supplier to make interstate supplies, or allowing a person opting for composition scheme to make interstate supplies. Yes, a person who is making composition scheme should not make interstate supplies. If they make interstate supply, they are disqualified from the composition scheme. Or failure to furnish correct details in GSTR 8. So these case on e-commerce operator, there will be penalty under 122 subsection 1B, 10,000 rupees or tax involved, whichever is higher. And what is the difference between 122(1)(b) versus 122(1)? Because here also we have TDS TCS default. What is the connection between these two? In this TDS TCS default, it is TDS not deducted, or deducted but not remitted, or short deducted. Then in that case, this 122 subsection 1 will come and the penalty will be 100% of the TDS, 100% of the TCS, or 10,000, whichever is higher. Whereas in this case 122(1)(b), it is not related to TDS TCS not deducted or deducted but not remitted, etc. It is on the procedural compliances. That is, if he allows an unregistered person to make interstate supplies, a composition scheme person to make interstate supplies, or not furnishing the details properly in GSTR 8, then the penalty, please carefully listen, please listen, the penalty is not 100% of TDS TCS, it is 100% of tax, because TCS is just 0.5% of tax, 0.5% of value. So TCS is just 0.5% of value. For example, 1 lakh is the value. Say this, 1 lakh is the value of the goods. Because you will think it has 100%. In option both will be there. See how they will test. So value will be 1 lakh. Value of goods will be 1 lakh. Value of goods will be 1 lakh. Okay. Through ECO. Value of goods through e-commerce operator. E-commerce operator. And IGST at the rate of 18% and TCS at the rate of 0.5%. You know now the TCS rate has been reduced to 0.5%. Previously the TCS rate is 1%, that's a May 25 amendment, they reduced it to 0.5%. Now what will be taken as the tax here? So if it is section 122 subsection 1 penalty, how much will be the penalty under CGST Act? Come on. How much will be the penalty under 122 subsection 1 of CGST Act? Reason is what? TCS not deducted, or deducted but not remitted, or remitted less. Then what will be the penalty? The penalty will be 0.5%. That is, so 1 lakh into 0.25%, because CGST will be 0.25%. So or 10,000, whichever is higher, that will be 10,000. Okay. Whereas section 122(1)(b) penalty, 122(1)(b) penalty under CGST Act. What is the penalty under 122 1B? 1 lakh into 9%, dear. 1 lakh into 9% or 10,000, whichever is higher, that will be 10,000. Okay. So therefore no difference, and so why we need to do this way and multiply it 2, I will tell you. Had you not done this way, if it is 18%, if you take together 1 lakh into 18%, you would have taken 18,000. 18,000 or 10,000, whichever is higher, 18,000, like that you selected as the answer. But actually that is wrong, because you need to first do it CGST, multiply by 2, the answer is 20,000. Is it clear or not? And because 1 lakh into 9%, 9,000 or 10,000, whichever is higher, will be 10,000. Now suppose in this case, what we will do, we will take, if value of the goods is 10 lakhs, if value of goods is 10 lakhs, so let me modify this question little bit. So I am taking the value of goods as 10 lakhs. Then what will happen with respect to the penalty? Okay, with respect to the penalty. So penalty will be how much? 10 lakhs into 0.25%. So 10 lakhs into 0.25%, 2,500 or 10,000, whichever is higher, that will be 10,000. You understood? Whereas here 122 1B, 10 lakhs into 9%, 90,000 or 10,000, whichever is higher, 90,000. You got it? So there is a difference between the penalty under 122 subsection 1 and 122 subsection 1B. Please appreciate this difference. In exam, definitely there is a chance that you may go wrong. Okay. Then, sir, TCS is calculated on value of supply or on tax amount? Value of supply, not on tax. TCS is never on tax. TCS is on value. TDS is on value. Okay, don't forget this. Next, sir, whether 10,000 is under each act? Of course 10,000 is under each act. Clearly I mentioned CGST Act. So 10,000 is under each act. And what will be the penalty total into 2? Whenever you get the penalty, you multiply by 2, that will be total. Got it? Then next one, 122 1B, you understood na? Next, 122 subsection 2. 122 subsection 2 will come into picture only when there is demand and recovery under 73-74. If the demand and recovery is not invoked under 73-74, then 122 subsection 2 penalty will not come. So 73-74 comes into picture in 5 situations. Number 1, non-payment of GST, short payment of GST, wrong availment of ITC, wrong utilization of ITC, and erroneous refund. Okay, in 5 cases. So in this 5 cases also, if it is on account of fraud, collusion, willful misstatement, suppression of facts, or contravention with an intent to evade payment of tax, then it will be 74. If it is other than fraud, means you don't have intention to evade, then it will be 73. And in case of 73, that is other than fraud, no intention to evade, other than fraud, the demand order will be under section 73. It is on whom? It is on the registered person. What will be the penalty? Penalty will be 10,000 or 10% of tax or ITC or refund, whichever is higher. Whereas if it is fraud on account of demand order under section 74, it is also on the registered person. 10,000 rupees or tax or ITC, 100%. Here it is 10%, here it is 100%. Tax or ITC or refund involved, whichever is higher. Now, what is the difference between 122 subsection 1 versus 122 subsection 2? 122 subsection 1 is on taxable person, 122 subsection 2 is on the registered person. In 122 subsection 1, we don't have any classification as to other than fraud or fraud, but in 122 subsection 2, we have a classification about fraud versus other than fraud. So in case of other than fraud, we have a lower penalty, 10% of tax or ITC, whereas fraud it will be 100% of tax or ITC, etc. Then Next point is that, so there are few offences which are common between 122 subsection 1 and 122 subsection 2. If you see 122 subsection 1, big list is there. Biodiscredits, TFT, like that. But in 122 subsection 2, the list will be 5. Non-payment of tax, short payment of tax. That is there even in 122 subsection 1. Collected tax not paid within 3 months. So non-payment, short payment, that is same. Then wrong availment of ITC, wrong utilization of ITC. It is also there in 122 subsection 1. Okay. And thereafter erroneous refund, that erroneous refund also there in 122 subsection 1. Then for these 5 offences, can there be a possibility of both 122 subsection 1 and 122 subsection 2? No, never. No, because out of these two, any one only will be coming. So therefore 122 subsection 1 and 122 subsection 2 are mutually exclusive. And for this purpose, what we need to do, that is, remember, whenever there is a tax due on a person, then only demand and recovery will be initiated under 7374. Only when demand and recovery is initiated under 7374, then only 122 subsection 1 will come. If there is no tax due against that person, only penalty needs to be levied, then it will be 122 subsection 1. So this we can understand with the help of 3 clarifications which is given under demand and recovery chapter. You see that page number 195, clarification number 1, CBIC circular on section 122 subsection 1 versus 122 subsection 2. So in this, what happens is that Mr. Amar is making supply or not making supply, but just raise the invoice to Mr. Balaji. There is no supply of goods or services. First of all, is Mr. Amar having any GST liability? No GST liability. Why no GST liability? Sir, he did not make supply. What is a taxable event under GST? Supply. Supply itself not happened just because he gave an invoice. Anywhere in GST law it is given that invoice is supply, invoice is the taxable event. No, supply is the taxable event. Supply itself does not happen. So therefore mere giving invoice, there is no liability on Amar. But Amar did the contravention, yes. But there is no liability on Amar. As there is no liability on Amar, 7374 will not come on Amar, but there will be penalty under section 122 subsection 1, that is invoice default. So as 7374 not coming, so 122 subsection 1 will come into picture. Okay. So demand and recovery under 7374 cannot be initiated. So penalty leviable under 122 subsection 1, that is invoice default. 100% of tax involved or 10,000, whichever is higher. Understood? Then second clarification, Mr. Amar is not giving any supply, not making any supply, but just raised the invoice on Mr. Balaji. What he did, against his invoice, whatever ITZ is there, GST paid, he availed as ITZ and utilized for payment of his tax liability. Means he is having some tax liability. Towards the tax liability he has utilized, availed ITZ and utilized for payment of tax liability. Say for example, he is having a tax liability of 4 lakhs and 4 lakhs, what he did, this fake ITC out of this invoice 1 lakh, he adjusted. So he would have paid only 3 lakhs. Instead of 4 lakhs, he would have paid 3 lakhs. Means there is a short payment. So because of which, can there be a recovery on Mr. Balaji? Yes. To the extent of 1 lakh, there can be a recovery on Mr. Balaji. As there is a recovery on Mr. Balaji, they will invoke 7374. As they invoke 7374, that penalty will be as per 122 subsection 2. So 122 subsection 1, even though he did in ITC default, will not be coming. So penalty under section 122 subsection 1 will not be leviable. Why? Because 7374 is initiated, and as demand and recovery is initiated on Balaji, this penalty will not come. Then clarification number 3, Mr. Amar is raising invoice to Mr. Balaji without making supply. So when he is raising invoice without making supply, what Balaji did, he took the ITC. Again Balaji is also making, like giving invoice without supply to Mr. Charan. And first on Amar, he just made the invoice without supply, there is no liability on Mr. Amar, so the penalty will be under section 122 subsection 1, that is invoice default. Whereas on Mr. Balaji, he availed the ITC first and he utilized it for payment of a liability. That liability also fake liability, ITC also fake, liability also fake. You understood? So because of that, will there be any recovery from Mr. Balaji? No, no recovery from Balaji. Why? Because he is not having a liability at all, because he did not make the supply but just raised the invoice, but he did the contravention. So for that reason, 2 times penalty will be levied under 122 subsection 1, one on account of ITC default, another on account of invoice default. So 7374 not initiated, however 2 times penalty payable under 122 subsection 1, that is ITC default and invoice default. What about Charan? Charan availed the ITC and utilized for payment of his regular tax liability. Now will there be demand and recovery on Charan? Yes, because he has utilized for payment of tax liability means to that extent he has paid lesser liability, so he need to pay tax, and that tax he need to pay. For that purpose 73-74 is initiated. Even though he did ITC default, 122 subsection 1 is not applicable. So from these clarifications only we can understand that. So there will be 122 subsection 1 or 122 subsection 2 mutually exclusive. The moment 122 subsection 2 comes, 122 subsection 1 will not come. And here you can see, so what are the reasons for 73-74, page number 192. Page number 192, page number 192, reasons for issuing show cause notice. So there will be non-payment, short payment, wrong availment or utilization of ITC or erroneous refund. And that's where I connected the penalty here also. The penalty will be 122 subsection 2 in case of fraud. In case of fraud, okay, fraud, collusion, willful misstatement or suppression with an intent to evade, means there is a mens rea, intention, guilty mind is present. So that's where 74, 100% of tax or ITC or refund or 10,000 whichever is higher, and here other cases 73, therefore 10% of tax or ITC or refund or 10,000 whichever is higher will be taken. This is about 122 subsection 2. Now we are looking into 122 capital A. So we completed up to 122 subsection 3. Look into 122 capital A. That's a newly added provision. Failure to register certain machines used in manufacture of goods as per the special procedure. So what happened, many tobacco manufacturers and all, so they have brought in a tax liability based on capacity, based on production capacity. For example, if you are having a machine and that machine has a production capacity of 1 lakh units. Now whatever may be your sales, but you need to pay GST based on 1 lakh units. Even if your production capacity is less than that and you need to pay like that, there is a provision. From quite a long time that provision is there, but you have not studied that provision because I have not taught you that provision, because it is not there in syllabus, okay, but this provision is there, okay. And what happened, these tobacco manufacturers and all, they used to buy lot of machines, and using these machines they will be making lot of production, and so therefore no one will know about these machines. So production capacity is not noticeable. Then department came out by telling that every machine that you have, you need to register the machine, not register the business, you need to register the machine. Like that they have brought in one special procedure, and for that purpose these people were not considering that, okay fine, why should we register machine and all. So therefore they brought in a penalty now. What is that penalty? 1 lakh per machine if you are not registering it. 1 lakh per machine, 1 lakh for each unregistered machine. If you are having 10 machine, 10 into 1 lakh, 10 lakhs you need to pay as penalty. Now they will come and register for that reason. Failure to register certain machines used in manufacture of goods as per special procedure, 1 lakh for each unregistered machine. And I have given some questions on amendments, so that you can see in my website. If you are having solved workbook, it is there at the end of that book. I have given even separately also here in downloads for everyone. I have given CA final IDT questions based on amendments for May 25 exam. So in this approximately some 26 questions I have given. So just to follow these 26 questions, it's a high possibility out of these 26 questions easily 2 to 3 questions can come in exam, not necessary verbatim. Verbatim if it comes, na, I will become pan India faculty, okay. So it will not come like that, but they will modify in these lines, they will be creating, okay. See this question number 26, XYZ Private Limited is registered, is engaged in manufacture of tobacco and pan masala. The company is required to register its manufacturing machines under a special procedure notified under section 148 of the CGST Act. However, during an audit in April 2025, it was found that XYZ Private Limited failed to register 5 machines used for manufacture of tobacco products. On the basis of this new section 122A, the proper officer issued a penalty order on April 20, 2025 for non-registration of machines. Compute the amount of penalty as per the penalty order. So, penalty payable under 122 subsection A of CGST Act. CGST Act is 1 lakh for each unregistered machine, which means 1 lakh into 5 lakhs, but this is under CGST Act. Suppose if they ask under total penalty into 2. So 10 lakhs will be the penalty, got it? So 1 lakh under CGST Act. Mostly you will get provisions only under CGST Act. 99.999999% of the cases it will be CGST Act only will be tested in exam. IGST Act rarely it will be coming in exam. So don't break your head in that. CGST Act only you need to first determine. Next, what is the course of action on the part of XYZ Limited after receipt of the penalty order? They should pay this penalty and register the machine in accordance with the special procedure within 3 days of receiving the penalty order. And what will happen if they are not registering within 3 days from the penalty order, then the machines will be seized. Okay, so you just connect that point and write here, that is failure to register machines. So register within 3 days from penalty order, register and pay penalty within 3 days, from penalty order, otherwise machines shall be seized. Okay, so this point may be tested because it's an amendment and many people will ignore this amendment. That's why I say like that. Register and pay penalty within 3 days from penalty order, otherwise machine shall be seized. Then section 123. Section 123 penalty will come into picture in case of failure to furnish the information written under section 150 within 90 days from the date of notice. As per section 150, GST department is having power to seek information from any person. So any person who possesses the taxpayer's information, he can be a chartered accountant, he can be registrar, or he can be bank manager. From any person they can seek the information and they need to submit the information about that particular taxpayer. For example, bank manager is required to submit the details of the bank statement of a particular person. So within 90 days from the date of notice, if not submitted, then there will be a penalty which is 100 rupees per day, subject to maximum 5,000. Again it is under CGST. This is like our regular late fee for delay in filing returns. So 100 per day, failure period subject to maximum 5,000. Section 150 empowers the jurisdictional commissioner or officer authorized by him to seek notified person from filing information return. Then 124 will come into picture in case the information is not submitted under section 152. As per section 152, what will happen? So we need to submit the information, but the difference between 150 and 151. 151 is like we need to give the data. 150 is about the information. Example, if GST department is asking the bank manager to submit the bank statement of Mr. Tarun Raj, that is section 150. If the bank manager is asked to submit the data of all the account holders whose gross receipts in a year exceeds 40 lakhs, that will be information under 151. 150 information not submitted within 90 days, penalty will be 123, and 151 information not submitted within the time limit. What is the time limit? Not defined. Means case to case basis, GST department will give notification and will specify the deadline in that notification itself. If not submitted by that time, then information not submitted under 151, penalty will be 124. And what is that penalty under 124? If it is a first time offence, up to 10,000. If it is a continuing offence, then it will be like for every day 100 rupees, for every day delay 100, which means up to 10,000 will be there. Up to 10,000 will be there plus 100 rupees for every day delay, but the overall, that is the 10,000 plus this 100 rupees, overall will be up to 25,000 rupees. So continuing offence 100 rupees per day for the failure period subject to maximum 25,000. So be careful, For example, it's a continuing offense, like that it is given. Don't just take 100 rupees per day, got it? So this up to 10,000 also will be there, 10,000 will be there, plus, for example, if the delay is 100 days, 10,000 plus 100 into 100, what is that? 100 into 100, 10,000. So 10,000 plus 10,000, 20,000. This is under CGST Act. The same penalty will be there under SGST Act also, but the maximum will be 25,000. Section 152. So whatever information that is obtained under 150 and 151 cannot be used without giving an opportunity of being heard to the person concerned. For example, so GST department is asking the bank manager to share information about me, and the bank manager is giving the details like, I have made a turnover of 2 crores, but the tax payable, that is GST records, says that I have paid GST only on 1.5 crore, but remaining 50 lakhs I have not paid GST. Now, they should not pass a order directly on me without giving an opportunity of being heard. They need to send me a notice stating that as per your bank statement, so 2 crores is the gross receipts, but you paid GST only on 1 crore 50 lakhs. Why on 50 lakhs you have not paid GST? Now I have an explanation to say, I am making exempted supplies. So because of that exempted supplies, I have not paid GST. So some genuine reason will be there, or that 50 lakhs is not my sales, that 50 lakhs is my borrowals, capital receipts. I have taken a loan and that loan got credited in my bank account. So therefore some reasonable explanation could be there. For that reason, they need to give me a notice and seek explanation, and thereafter only they can proceed against that information which is obtained under 150 or 151, that is about 152. Then general penalty under section 125 up to 25,000. So wherever we have up to means they can levy less than that also, got it? In 3 places we have up to penalty. What is that? First, section 122 subsection 3. 122 subsection 3, you see there, up to 25,000. Again 124 up to 10,000. Then 125 up to 25,000. In these 3 places, section 126 will come into picture. Applicable in case of 122 subsection 3, 124 and 125. No penalty for minor offences. What is minor offences? So offences where the tax or IT is involved is less than 5,000, not less than or equals to less than 5,000, less than 5,000. Then there is no penalty. This is the power of the officer. So this section 126 is power of officer. Power of officer not to levy any penalty or reduce penalty. Got it? Power of officer. And where the offence is easily rectifiable and made without a fraudulent intent or gross negligence. For example, I gave you an invoice without mentioning SAC. When I am not mentioning SAC, that is an offence. So you can complain, and GST department will come and ask me, so you have not mentioned SAC. Yes sir, sorry. Next time onwards, I will give the invoice with SAC. Easily rectifiable and made without a fraudulent intent. If I have a fraudulent intent, I would not have given invoice at all. So therefore made without a fraudulent intent. In that case also they can waive off the penalty. What are the 2 cases? Number 1, no penalty for minor offences or which can be easily rectifiable and made without fraudulent intent or gross negligence. Okay. Then section 127. This section 127 is a notice and order only for levying penalty. Only for levying penalty. In that example of Mr. Amar, so Mr. Amar, there is no penalty under 7374. There is no proceeding under 7374, but the penalty needs to be levied only under 122 subsection 1 for invoice default. How that penalty can be levied? Directly the penalty cannot be levied. Some notice is required. That notice will be given under section 127. Where proper officer is of the view that a person is liable to pay penalty and the same is not covered, underline, not covered under any other proceedings, not covered under any other proceedings, he may levy penalty after giving a reasonable opportunity of being heard. So section 127 is notice and order only for levying penalty. So this particular section is notice and order. Notice and order under section 127 only for recovery of penalty, only for recovery of penalty. Okay, only for recovery of penalty. Definitely if I want to make a question, I can make on this, because no one will write, 4 marks gone, okay, or 5 marks gone. Then section 128. Section 128, government may by notification waive in full or part any penalty referred to in section 122, 123, 125 or any late fee for delay in filing returns. What is the difference between 126 and 128? 126 is the power of the officer, but 128 is the power of government. They can waive off completely all penalties except 124 penalty. See there in the sections we have 122, 123, 125, 124 is not there, and even any late fee for delay in filing returns also can be waived off. Section 133, that is, officer who is engaged under this act willfully discloses the information about a taxpayer with any other person otherwise than in execution of duties, because they will possess the taxpayer's returns information, and that returns information is a sensitive data that should not be shared with anyone otherwise than in execution of duties, maybe for the purpose of preparing a notice or for the purpose of passing an order. Then they can share with any other officer or any other person, but otherwise they should not do that. And if they are doing, then there will be a penalty. How much will be the penalty? Up to 25,000. In addition to that, there is a possibility of imprisonment also, or imprisonment of 6 months or both. Okay, imprisonment is for a period of how many days? Only 6 months, maximum 6 months, up to 25,000, or imprisonment of 6 months or both. Then this is about offences that leads to penalties. So two headings we have completed. First one, what are the offences that leads to search and seizure? Offences that leads to penalties. Now we are looking into offences that leads to imprisonment. Offences that leads to imprisonment, you need to remember ICE bid. Now if you remember biodiscredited TFT, this will become easy for you. First, in this ICE bid, how many I's are there? I, C, E, B, I, D, I. In biodiscredited TFT, 3 I's are there. What are they? Invoice default, ITC default, ISD default. In these 3, tell me which is not that much severe for imprisonment. ISD default. Other 2 will come for imprisonment, that is invoice default, ITC default. Okay, so ICE, I for invoice default. C, in biodiscredited TFT, what is C? Collected tax or collected an amount as tax not paid within 3 months. In these 2, which is more severe? Collected an amount as tax, that is only given for imprisonment. Collected an amount as tax and not paid within 3 months, but collected tax not paid within 3 months is not an offence for imprisonment. Okay, be careful with respect to this. Then that is C, I, C, E. E for erroneous refund. Okay, erroneous refund. Then B for books of accounts default. Only one is there. E, only one is there in a biodiscredited TFT, and even this B also only one is there. I, ITC default. D, there are 2 D's in biodiscredited TFT. What are they? Dealing in goods liable for confiscation, disposal while detention or seizure is operational. But in these 2, which is more severe? In case of disposal while detention is operational, already I have seized it and therefore you disposed of, but I know the value of the goods, etc. and all. But dealing in goods liable for confiscation is more severe because you can easily escape. So for that reason, that is only covered under imprisonment. So ICE bid, you need to remember I for invoice default, C for collected amount as tax not paid within 3 months, and E for erroneous refund, B for books of accounts default, I for ITC default, and D for dealing in goods liable for confiscation, plus attempt to commit or abetting commission of this ICE bid. Attempt to commit. Sir, I tried, but I was not successful. Okay, murder includes attempt to murder also. So therefore, attempt to commit this offence is also covered here. Then abetting commission. Abetting commission means encouraging, supporting, planning, etc. So all the chartered accountants or cost accountants or consultants who are all involved in giving plan to the people, so will come under abetting commission. Got it? That's where whenever a taxpayer is caught in GST, so that particular consultant of the taxpayer, he will get sweat in AC room, because he will have a fear. Under abetting to commit an offence, he may be caught. Got it? Then so that is about this. And in this case, you can see collected tax but not paid within 3 months is not an offence for imprisonment, but collected an amount as tax but not paid within 3 months is an offense for imprisonment. Now how to remember this imprisonment schedule? First you need to see, so 1, 2, 5. So see this, how you need to understand, I am telling you. 1, 2, 5. 1 crore, 2 crores, 5 crores. 1, 3, 5. This alone you remember. 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, 5. 1, 2, 5, 1, 3, 5. 1 crore, 2 crore, 5 crores. 1 year, 3 year, 5 year. In all these cases, if you see imprisonment, minimum 6 months is common. Means minimum 6 months is the imprisonment. And everywhere it is and fine. And fine. How much is the fine? As decided by the court. As decided by the court. And all this is for the first time. Subsequent, there is nothing, no more discussion. You are already a senior. So why we need to differentiate how much offense you did? Senior always up to 5 years and fine. Minimum 6 months. And here, if it is a books of accounts default, in this entire ice bed, for books of accounts default alone, they are giving a lower imprisonment. That is up to 6 months or fine or both. Okay. Then this 1 year, 3 years, 5 years is for what? Other offences. For books of accounts default, don't see the amount. Always it is 6 months or fine or both. Then next, that 1 crore point is there, na? That 1 crore point is applicable only in case of invoice without supply. So invoice without supply only invoice without supply. What if supply without invoice? No, this 1 year point is not applicable. So therefore invoice default issues invoice without supply where the amount involved is greater than 1 crore, then only up to 1 year. For all other offences, it will be more than 2 crores. So for supply without invoice, so it should be more than 2 crores, then only it will come. If it is greater than 1 crore, it will not come. Got it? So what is the table that you need to remember? Say this. First what you need to see, that is books of accounts default. Books of accounts default. First time, subsequent, books of accounts default. Thereafter, next 1 crore greater than 2 crores, greater than 5 crores. This 1 crore point is only for invoice without supply, correct? Invoice without supply. But this 2 crores etc. is for ice bid minus B. Why ice bid minus B? Because for books of accounts default this is not applicable. But all other offences, ice bid minus B, it is applicable. And if it is first time, so books of accounts default up to 6 months or fine or both. Whereas here greater than 1 year na, so up to 1 year, greater than 2 crores up to 3 years, and greater than 5 crores up to 5 years. Okay. Then or fine or both, or sorry, and fine. It is not or fine, it is and fine, and fine, and fine. In all these cases, what is the minimum? Minimum 6 months. And if it is subsequent, no more discussion. Everywhere it will be what? Up to 5 years plus fine, okay, or and fine, and there is a minimum of 6 months. Okay. So you write and practice it once again at your end, the imprisonment table alone, so that you will not make the mistake. Okay. Then that is about this imprisonment schedule. And you can see here penalty under 120 to 1 is on whom? Taxable person. 120 to 1A on any person. 1B on e-commerce operator. 2 is only on registered person. 3 is on any person. 123 is on whom? Person required to file information written under section 150. Penalty under 124. Person required to file information under 151. Penalty under 125 is on any person. Just update this. Then make it quick. So penalty under 123, person required to file information written under 150, 124 person required to file information under 151, 125 is on any person, any person. Then we have arrest. What are the offences that leads to arrest? Remember IIC. What is that IIC? First, invoice default. Next ITC default. C, collected an amount as tax not paid within 3 months. What is the difference between arrest and imprisonment? So when a person is arrested, so the person is taken into the custody of the officer, and thereafter he will be produced before the magistrate, and thereafter the magistrate will decide whether the imprisonment order to be passed or not passed. Whereas if the imprisonment order is passed, so far he was under the custody of the officer, now he will be going into the imprisonment. Whereas sometimes the offence can be imprisonment but without arrest. Without arrest also a person can be imprisoned. That is, so first the charges will be made against that person, and till the time imprisonment happens he need to come to the court whenever called for, and in every hearing he need to come, and finally the court will decide imprisonment, then he need to say tata bye bye to his family and he will go for imprisonment. So therefore imprisonment can be with arrest or without arrest. So therefore arrest and imprisonment both are not same, don't get confused. So these are the three offences: IIC, invoice default, ITC default, collect an amount as tax and not paid within 3 months. But how much should be the tax involved? More than 2 crores. Then only arrest can be made. But there are certain guidelines for arrest. After considering the following factors only, the arrest has to be exercised. First, there should be proper investigation of the offences. Casually it should not be. So therefore really there should be, like these 3 offences, and proper investigation should be made. Then to prevent a person from absconding, sometimes if the arrest is not made, the person may abscond, he may run away. For the sake of that, the arrest can be made. Number 3, these offences are committed with a guilty mind, that is mens rea is present, then only arrest should be made, otherwise should not be. If the person is telling that it's an error and we don't have any intention to defraud the revenue, and all the evidences are in support of that person stating that he don't have intention to evade, then definitely arrest should not be made. Large amount of evasion, just because it is 2 crore 1 rupee, don't arrest, okay. So it should be really large amount. So 2 crores it crossed by 1000, it crossed by 2000, or it crossed by somewhere like 5000, don't arrest. Really the amount should be so huge, and this 2 crores should not be interpreted so loosely that it crosses 2 crores immediately arrest should be made, not like that. There really the large amount of evasion should be involved. And if this person is outside, he may tamper the evidence, he may try to kill the evidence like witness and all, or he may try to blackmail the officer. I know where your daughter is studying, I know where your wife is going, like that. He may try to intimidate or influence, you understood? So due to that reason, possibility of tampering material evidence, or can intimidate or influence within, or they are the mastermind or key person in the offense. Because of these reasons, these are the guidelines they need to check before making an arrest. It can be asked as a theory question, okay. So this is something which usually we will not read in study material and go, and they can ask. After considering the following factors only, arrest can be exercised. Then what is the connection between imprisonment, bailability of offence and arrest provision? Now we need to understand what are the offences that leads to cognizable and non-bailable. Cognizable means what? A person can be arrested. 4 terminologies we should know now. Cognizable means person can be arrested without a warrant. Non-cognizable means person can be arrested only with a warrant. Bailable means the arrested person can be granted bail by the arresting officer. And non-bailable means the person arrested, the officer cannot grant the bail and he need to be produced before the magistrate. And if it is a cognizable offence, all cognizable offences are non-bailable offences, therefore the person should be produced before the magistrate within 24 hours from the arrest has been made. Otherwise the person should be released upon, because the person has been arrested without the warrant, so he should be produced before the magistrate. That's where like many movies and all you would have seen, night times also they go, police will take to the magistrate home and they will be disturbing the magistrate, okay, and magistrate and all will scold, next day you can come to court, why night time you are disturbing like that. So that is the reason. So see this, tax involved, see this, offences specified in section 132, invoice default, ITC default, collected an amount as tax and not paid within 3 months. These 3 offences, if it exceeds 5 crores, then it will be cognizable and non-bailable. Arrest can be made. Inform the grounds of arrest and produce before the magistrate within 24 hours of arrest. And as the amount exceeds 5 crores, definitely imprisonment up to 5 years. Where the tax involved exceeds 2 crores but does not exceed 5 crores, then in that case it is non-cognizable plus bailable. And can the arrest be made? Yes, arrest can be made, but the arresting officer will give bail. ACDC can give bail. If bail is not taken, then forwarded to the custody of magistrate. And imprisonment, what is the period for which imprisonment will be made? Imprisonment up to 3 years and fine. And in both these, all these cases, there is a minimum imprisonment of 6 months. Any other offence is not coming under cognizable, no arrest, etc. So any other offence, arrest cannot be made. But in law, they gave that as non-cognizable and bailable. So tax involved exceeds 2 crores, exceed 5 crores, imprisonment is there. So now what you need to write in exam? Arrest cannot be made, non-cognizable and bailable. But when arrest cannot be made, the question of bailability does not arise. And however, there appears an error in drafting, as all offences other than cognizable and non-bailable are treated as non-cognizable and bailable. Due to that reason only, we follow this. And you need to write like this and then write a note like this. Got it? Next. So this is about cognizable, non-cognizable, etc. Sir, in case of imprisonment limits, tax amount is checked or transaction value is checked. So it is given as amount involved. Where is it given as amount involved? Clearly I gave tax involved. All these are tax involved. Okay. So where the amount of tax, this is tax here, 1 crore, 2 crores, 5 crores, these are all tax. Here also I gave clearly tax involved is greater than 2 crore, tax involved is greater than 5 crore. It's not the value, it is the tax. Tax amount is more than 1 crore, tax amount is more than 5 crores, like that. Okay. Then look into this cognizable offence, non-cognizable offence. So person can be arrested without a warrant and to start investigation with or without permission of court. Non-cognizable offence, person cannot be arrested without a warrant and investigation cannot be initiated without court order. And in the case of arrest, provisions of Code of Criminal Procedure, now BNSS, should be followed during the arrest. Then the last area is offences that leads to compounding. First we saw offences that leads to search and seizure. Second, offences that leads to penalties. Third, offences that leads to imprisonment, and offences which are cognizable and non-bailable. And then we are looking into compounding of offences. Okay. And cognizable, non-bailable, all those things also we saw. First we completed search pass, second we saw penalties, then after that I told you imprisonment, then arrest, then cognizability of offence, finally compounding. In compounding, what is the meaning of compounding? Granting immunity from prosecution, means imprisonment upon payment of a compounding fee by the offending person. So anyhow, if the imprisonment order is passed, so they will try to bribe the officers. So therefore, why to bribe? Directly itself you pay. So compounding fee, so that you will get. But compounding can be done only once in the lifetime of a person. Not that every year you make mistake and tell I will pay money, sir, give me immunity. No, only once. So is there a possibility of subsequent compounding? Never. So restriction on subsequent compounding, all offences under section 132, there is a restriction on subsequent compounding. But there are two offences. First time compounding itself, it is not possible. What is that? Invoice without supply or invoice without supply. But supply without invoice possible. Invoice without supply, first time compounding is not possible. First time itself is not possible. Then prosecution order is passed, means imprisonment order already passed. The moment imprisonment order is passed, now officer also can't do anything with respect to that. Before passing imprisonment order, he can withdraw the case. So after collecting the compounding fee. But the moment imprisonment order is passed, the appeal only can be made. Then appeal, that too regular appeal is not possible. Using writ only we can go to the court. Okay. And meaning of compounding, granting immunity from prosecution. What is the compounding fee? The compounding fee will be general compounding fee 25% to 100% of the tax involved. So this 25% to 100% is general, not for any specific offence. So in the question when they are asking, so there is a compounding of offence, what is the compounding fee payable? You just write 25% minimum compounding fee and 100% of the tax is the maximum compounding fee. But specifically if they list out the offence, this is the offence, how much is the compounding fee? For that we have a specific point you can see below. If the offence is under section 132 and if it is books of accounts default or disposal or dealing in goods liable for confiscation or attempt to commit or abetting commission of any offences, the compounding fee will be 25%. B or D or attempt to commit 25%. If it is any other offence except invoice without supply, and then because invoice without supply there is no possibility of compounding, then tax or ITC or refund greater than 2 crores but does not exceed 5 crores, 40 to 60%. If it exceeds 5 crores, 50 to 75%. So keep that in mind. First, books of accounts default, dealing in goods liable for confiscation, attempt to commit or abetting commission of offences 25%. All other offences, and if it is more than 2 crores but does not exceed 5 crores, 40 to 60%. More than 5 crores, 50 to 75. Why more than 1 crore is not there? More than 1 crore only for one offence, that is invoice without supply. If there is no imprisonment, compounding will not come. Imprisonment is applicable only if it is more than 1 crore, but more than 1 crore only for one offence, that is invoice without supply, and that invoice without supply there is no possibility of compounding. That's why more than 2 crores. So first slab 40 to 60, next one 50 to 75. This is the specific compounding fee. Whether this compounding fee alone is payable or in addition to the tax, interest, penalty also payable, everything. So tax, interest, penalty also payable. And next special points, compounding is not possible if the prosecution is not initiated, possible if prosecution is not initiated or during prosecution, but it should not be completed. After initiation of prosecution, prosecution means imprisonment proceedings in the court. After initiation of that also, upon payment of compounding fee, all proceedings shall stand abated. What is the procedure for compounding? Step number 1, first we need to make an application. So for compounding along with payment of tax, interest, penalty. So we should pay the tax, interest, penalty first itself before making the application for compounding, and commissioner call for the records from the concerned officer, and compounding order will be passed within 90 days from application. Once we make application, within 90 days they will pass the compounding order, and thereafter after passing compounding order, the applicant shall pay the compounding fee within 30 days from the date of receipt of order. Then next, suppose if there are two offences that I have committed, books of accounts default is also there and ITC default is also there, then in that case, so will they divide and collect 25%, 40 to 60% like that? No, the highest only will be applicable. However, where the offence committed by a person falls under more than one category specified above, the compounding amount in such case shall be amount determined for the offence for which higher compounding amount has been prescribed. Then offences, penalty to compounding. Now I am merging everything, all the discussions which I have made so far. So see this. Let's complete this chapter, then go for a break, okay, so that the mental block is gone. So see this, types of offences, ice bit, and first we need to check what is a penalty, what is the arrest, imprisonment, cognizance plus non-bailable, compounding, okay. And first we will see invoice default. What is invoice default? Invoice without supply. What is a penalty? 100% of tax or 10,000, whichever is higher. This under CGST, SGST. Arrest, yes, if the amount exceeds 2 crores. Invoice without supply, yes, if the amount exceeds 2 crores because it is in IIC. Then imprisonment, yes, if the amount exceeds 1 crore itself. 1 crore itself there is a imprisonment possible. Will it come under cognizable plus non-bailable? Yes, because it is also in IIC. So when it exceeds 5 crores, compounding first time, impossible, not possible. Then invoice default, supply without invoice, penalty same. Arrest, yes, if it exceeds 2 crores. Imprisonment, yes, if it exceeds 2 crores. Cognizable and non-bailable, yes, if it exceeds 5 crores. And what about compounding? Compounding is if it exceeds 2 crores, 40 to 60%. If it exceeds 5 crores, 50 to 75%. Got it? Next, collected an amount as tax, not paid within 3 months. Penalty same. Arrest, yes, more than 2 crores. And imprisonment, yes, more than 2 crores. Cognizable and non-bailable, yes, more than 5 crores. And compounding fee same as above. Then erroneous refund. Erroneous refund penalty, yes, same as above. And arrest, no, there is no arrest in case of erroneous refund because arrest is only in case of IIC. So no arrest. And is there a possibility of imprisonment? Yes, because I is bit, in that E is there, so imprisonment is possible. If it exceeds 2 crores, will it come under cognizable and non-bailable? No, because cognizable and non-bailable is only IIC, erroneous refund is not there in that list. And what will be the compounding fee? Same, that is more than 2 crores 40 to 60, more than 5 crores 50 to 75. Then next, books of accounts default. Books of accounts default penalty same. And will there be arrest? No, impossible. And what about imprisonment? Imprisonment is there, but it is different, up to 6 months or fine or both. Cognizable and non-bailable? No. Compounding, yes, as it is books of accounts default, flat 25%. Then ITC default. ITC default penalty will be same as above. Arrest, yes, if the amount of ITC exceeds 2 crores. And what about imprisonment? Yes, if it exceeds 2 crores. 2 crores. Imprisonment, if it exceeds 2 crores itself, it is there. Whereas cognizable and non-bailable, yes, if it exceeds 5 crores, because IIC should exceed 5 crores. So kindly correct that. IIC if it exceeds 5 crores. Cognizable and non-bailable, yes, if ITC exceeds 5 crores. 5 crores. And compounding, yes, normal. More than 2 crores, 40 to 60. More than 5 crores, 50 to 75. Dealing in goods liable for confiscation, same penalty. Arrest, no. And imprisonment, yes, if it exceeds 2 crores. Cognizable and non-bailable, no. But what is the compounding fee? 25%. So therefore, whenever you get a confusion, just refer to this table so that all your doubts will be clarified. Then summons, last section, section 70. Ordering a person to appear before an officer to give evidence or to produce documents is known as summons. So asking a person to appear before the officer and either to give the documents or to give the evidence is known as summons. And person to whom summons is issued is legally bound to attend either in person or through authorized representative. Underline through authorized representative, not necessarily that person should go. So even he can send an authorized representative by giving a power of attorney. These proceedings are deemed to be judicial proceedings, and if such person does not appear or does not produce documents or gives false evidence, he can be prosecuted under IPC. So because for all evidences, false evidences and all given, false witness, so we have a separate penalty under IPC that will come. And even under GST also there is a penalty. What is the penalty for not appearing during summons? Section 122 subsection 3. What is that? Up to 25,000 under section 122 subsection 3 of CGST Act. Then there are certain precautions while issuing summons. Number 1, can be exercised only when there is an inquiry and attendance is necessary. Only when that person has to appear. Maybe we are taking a video statement and therefore he need to come and give a video witness. For the sake of that, you can make him to come. Or should not, and next one, should not be issued repeatedly. Maybe he is good looking or she is good looking. You cannot call them repeatedly and all to see them. Minimum number of appearances should be there. Okay. Person should not be made to wait for longer hours unless as a matter of strategy. You are telling a meeting time of 11 AM, but you are asking them to come somewhere like 7 AM itself. You understood? No. Or you are telling 11 AM, they are coming at 11 AM and they should not be made wait so up to evening, because afternoon lunch they need to eat na. But as a matter of strategy, when you make them wait, when you make them hungry, they will not be like that. You understood? So because till the time you give Snickers, they will not be like that. So for the sake of that, you can do that. And you cannot call them night 11 o'clock you come, we will do sitting and discuss. No, not possible. Statement should not be recorded only during office hours unless regards facts of the case. Say night time they are going to arrest one person. At that time this person is required for witness before the magistrate, because he is arrested under cognizable and non-bailable offence. He will be produced before the magistrate. Magistrate will ask for the witness. At that time the witness can be summoned to come in the night. That is this, unless regards the facts of the case. That's it. This is about offences, penalties, search, seizure, everything we completed. We'll take a break. Happily we will take a break. And one doubt, sir, which officer has the power to arrest a person? GST officer. GST officer. So which GST officer? Commissioner. Commissioner will have the power to arrest, but imprisonment will be passed by the court. Okay.